Okay, and both of them have written escape clauses that tell you that in 25 words or less too. So.
What would you say that if you use full you capture about 75%?
I mean, obviously it depends a large part on what your document has in it, but across the board, one per. Like for example, if you don't have any tables in your document, it pretty much catches just about everything that's important. Tables lend a whole new complication to things, especially when you start merging cells and tables and things like that. It's really easy to get out of whack. So
do they warn you about the non-verbal ones like bulletin and
no,
underlining?
no,
It doesn't say
not
that
at
this
all.
won't come through.
Yeah, no, they don't. That's what I say. It's like they don't even recognize that that stuff exists. Either that or the premise is, well, as long as we can read the words, then that's good enough. And of course, what we're finding in the long run is that's not good enough. And not to put a plug in for my profession, but I will. But I think any right-thinking organization that decides to start moving in this direction, either because they want to or because they have to, it's probably really a good idea to get some professional help, and not of the psychiatric variety. Although you'll think that maybe it's come to that. Somebody that knows their way around this business can save you a lot of money, especially getting started up. And it's especially true because, like I mentioned early on, there's so many of us and our peers who are just self-taught on all this stuff, on all these applications and stuff, and we know how to make a good-looking printed document. The problem is we don't know how to make it good-looking under the covers for its assistive technology to deal with. So I suppose we'll get this out someplace, but even if you just wanted to, you don't necessarily have to jot down the web addresses, but if you remember WebAIM, and you remember the WC or W3 or WCAG, you can go out and do some Google searches and you can find tons and tons of information and resources on it. And if you get really bored, you can call me. Any more questions? I appreciate everybody's participation. Yeah.
Just a quick question. Is there any reference to following APA formatting in these standards? The universities require students to write APA formatting, which is
That. Yeah, that's because we actually have two reference books. We keep Chicago Manual Style around and the Microsoft Manual Style. And of course, what we find there is that those, except in certain tangential ways, they're a little bit more off the structural issues that are really important to accessibility, and they're more on the stylistic and the content kinds of issues. The Microsoft Manual Style is probably one of the more useful things when it comes down to software documentation, because it has a lot of good guidance and rules in there on how you should label things, how you should call things. You call these things buttons, you call these things options, you call these things box or text boxes, you call these things dialogues. So they're even more into that. To be frank, I've gone to the Colorado or the Chicago Manual Style several times looking for solutions to arguments, and I don't readily find them. So
actually, you hit upon a really good starting point. Is if you're like in a small business or an individual situation, just picking a really fully populated like thesis style or something that's required for one university or many universities or something, or publications style, and usually you can get a Word style that is that, and if they've done a good job and it's really fully populated, the table breaks and repeat headers and all of the stuff that would take you 6 years to go through and set all the options are, is a really good way to get, not gonna get you all the way there, but get you a leg up.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I didn't mention, one of the things that WCAG has on their website, even for PDFs and for Word files, is, I forget what they call them, but they basically have, they're kind of like checklists, but they're not checklists, but they're a list of what the word I want to use, kind of like, each item on the list is an approach to being accessible in terms of a particular issue in a particular type of electronic documents. So for example, one of them would be tables in PDF files, or headers or headings, headings 1, heading 2, heading 3, headings in Word documents. So like I say, they're not exactly a how-to, not exactly a checklist, but they do give you kind of a push, yeah, in a sense, a guideline. They give you a push into thinking, oh, okay, that's how I approach this problem, is by, and this is how I know when I'm done. So it's almost a, it includes an expectation of what you'll have when you're done doing that. So,
You mentioned a couple of times about document properties.
Uh-huh.
Does the 508 guideline have any guidance for the document metadata and the document properties?
yes, yeah, there's a little bit, it's like in the document title needs to be in the document properties. There's probably 4 or 5 things at most, but yeah, it does.
You see any competing sub-optimization things going on, like the guidelines say this, but then that sub-optimizes something else. An example might be, you increase the font size, but that somehow creates a problem for the reader to read the applicant's case.
Yeah,
Something like that where it happens, where you have problems.
I've not heard or thought of anything per se in that. I think maybe in some respects the idea of cascading style sheets helps get around some of that, so that the reader can put in their own style sheet and deal with that. I know that even though we go conservative on our end, the issue of the contrast between colors, between background and text in particular, at higher font sizes, the contrast can be allowed to slip. We don't let it, but it could go from say 4.6 to 1 to 5.2 to 1 or something like that. That's the only place where I've seen font size get into the picture. Huh?
Do you have a good open source screen reader that you can use to test?
Not that I've seen. There's besides, like I say, there's a basic, even your if you've got an updated version of Adobe Reader, it's got a screen reader in it, but it's really just the basic bare bones thing. But you can always try it to see what it's
Yeah,
like.
I've done that, but so I actually look at pages doing exactly this. And they wouldn't allow us to buy one. It was really hard to find one that was better than.
Tell me your name.
Mary Peters.
Okay.
It's in that version.
Okay.
Because you can buy Jaws, you can buy
Yeah.
Jaws for
Yeah.
like $300.
Yeah, and the organization I'm in right now just doesn't do accessibility, but it's always useful if you know that it's a good thing to do to have, and I go to computers.
Yeah, and that's really kind of one of the the ultimate proving method, and that's why I kind of joke about we're out here in the lab that has all the stuff is back in Maryland, and I just hope somebody back there is using it.
Actually, you have the ability to get the document shipped either to an iPhone or an iPad and have its reader do it for you. That's not a bad test.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, Jaws, and there's one other one, that's the only ones I know, and they're for money, you know, and I haven't seen fit to spend my own money on this stuff yet, so. Anything else?
I was going to give a tip on something that I learned because I happen to work in an office with several colorblind and dyslexics. Odd office situation. When you do fills on things, like in PowerPoint, or if you're going to do a color fill on a chart or something, a real easy thing to do that will solve a lot of problems for the people is if you use the old black and white fill style under the color, or with the color at the same time, such that if you're colorblind, you see that this one as a field of dots.
Oh, yeah.
And instead of, you know, instead of two grays that are hard to tell apart, you've now got two grays that have got pluses and dots, you know, the old black and white printer technique that's used to. You can still pull those fills up on most of the software you do, and you can put those in with the color. So it doesn't really distract from the color fill that you like to use and make the point in your Excel slide that you can still let them have something that can distinguish between the two fields.
Yeah, that was shown in the webinar like the last week. Of course, with that, you still remember too, though, and not that this is not a solution, but you still have the issue of, with graphics like that, is quantifying the graphics for a non-sighted person.
And but this is just one that you encounter more, you know, of your neighbor next to me, or that you're presenting to in the local office PowerPoint presentation. You have a guy who's colorblind. You can make life a lot easier for him by just doing that much.
Yeah.
Doesn't necessarily comply with the regulations, just.
Well, and to be honest, one of the, you know, we're getting on details, one of the easiest things to do with, you know, charts, especially if you create charts in Excel, is go ahead and bring the chart over and the block of data that built the chart, and then you're compliant. Because you've got, you know, that block of data is readable. It's not just a picture. But like I say, we're getting down in the weeds a little bit, and I know it's getting late. So, but not to shut anybody down. I'll stand around as long as you want and yak about this stuff because it's my latest perversion, I guess.
Yeah, thank you very much for coming.